Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma 231 here, back in data about tying off an Amagami sister, chapter number 192. This chapter is titled 192nd Knot, Tying Disguise Together, Evening. And we are finally here. This is the final arc of Yuna in the story, of course. I've been covering this series now for I was about to say a chapter number, but what's this, 14 chapters I've been covering? If I go to quickly YouTube Studio, it'll tell me all the information I need. But ever since I've been covering this series on the channel, and really ever since I first got introduced to this series, I've always been under the same exact mindset. Yuna is the best girl in tying a knot for an Amagami sister. It's just how it is. Some of you freaks, I'm going to call you freaks, may be like, man, I love Asahi, I just love her character, how she goes through and just is this really nice character all about running and following your dreams. Granted, all of the girls are about following your dreams, and the way this series sort of has worked out is if you pray to the gods enough, they'll make multiverses and split things up and imbue cords that you've carried your entire life of energy to bring you together, and then tie a knot with this one guy you met last year, mind you, which still just absolutely gets me. But either way, I just love this series. And then now finally going over to my playlist, I have talked about this series 16 times? That can't be right. There must be a few deleted videos in this playlist. Let's go check real quick. No, I've actually talked about this series 16 times. That's a little weird to think about, right? But either way, like I mentioned, this is the first chapter of the Yuna arc to end out the story. And what a nice one it was. I initially read this chapter about a week ago whenever I recorded the last batch of Amagami Sister chapter reviews focusing on the Asahi arc. And I sort of sit down and read this chapter, and I just came out of it with the biggest smile on my face, just because these are my favorite two characters in this series, so of course I want to see them end up happy together, and that's pretty much what they're working towards, is ending up happy together, right? But of course, we're going to talk about this chapter, tying it off an Amagami sister. Let me just first mention, Asa, he got married last time. That was the entire contents of last chapter. She also, won the Olympics. How could I almost forget that? But mainly, it was just, her final arc, her character coming full circle, pretty much, and also marrying Uryu. She got married on a beach in California somewhere, probably LA. We don't really have any idea, but that's sort of what happened in that manga chapter, right? But either way, this chapter right here, chapter number 192, titled Evening, opens up again once more with the cord running over the top of the page, sort of signifying, hey, this is another branch world where a knot is getting ready to be tied. As we just see, we're at the Amagami Shrine for once. We're just simply there. And we see that Uryu is sort of walking over and just using one of the brooms, just sweep off one of the gateways pretty much, right? Or the stones on the ground around to go. He's making it clean. He's using a broom for its intended purpose pretty much, right? And of course, while Uryu is sleeping, none other than Yuna comes up and just hey, Uryu, I need to talk to you about the upcoming wedding. Is now a good time? And we just see, yes, Yuna's here in the moment. Of course, her hairstyle has changed. It's become much, much longer. And of course, she's wearing the typical, just Shinto shrine robes. Not quite what she always wore as a shrine maiden, but definitely a newer, updated version of that she always wore whenever she was much younger, pretty much, right? And Uryu here in a moment sort of cocks his head back and is yeah, sure, I'll just think we need to talk about the wedding as well. And it's oh my gosh, are they talking about their own wedding? Are they already that far ahead? Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Spoiler alert, not in the slightest, right? As pretty much we just now cut inside to the Amagami house, as we just see that Uryu and Yuna are just sitting here, and they are just having a fight with each other, right? As pretty much we just see that Yuna's alright, next weekend we have the Oraka Namakura, okay, Okada Nakamura. Okay, I'm going to figure out how to say this word. This is going to be a thing for this video. Okada Nakamura wedding. Okadamakura wedding. I think that was close enough right there, right? But either way, she is hey, next week when we have this wedding, so about our division of the duties for the ceremony, right? And pretty much we just see that Yuna's hey, Uryu, how many times do I have to tell you that you do way too much around this shrine? We will be fine without you. Your shift at a hospital doesn't even end until right before the ceremony starts. And Uryu's I told you, I'm fine. I can do it. It's my job. I'll make sure to get both of them done pretty much, right? And Uryu pretty much explains hey, well, currently Asi is off in the US, and Yahei-senpai is traveling around with Takeda-senpai. So, if I don't step in, there's going to be chaos around the shrine, and you can't admit it to yourself, Yuna, pretty much, right? And the two of them are just sort of like bickering back and forth here in the moment. And from the outside of the shrine, we see that a few girls here, again, just like typical shrine maidens that Yuna has hired, are just sort of sitting there and like, oh my gosh, like those two are at it again. Like, should we try to go over and stop them pretty much? But of course, we see one of the other main shrine maidens here in the series. It is Mibu. We haven't seen her in a little while, but it also makes sense being to like, we have not been focusing on the shrine. We've been focusing more on the girls and their lives outside the shrine pretty much this entire time, right? But Mibu pretty much comes up and just says like, hey, don't worry about those two. Like, they argue like this all the time pretty much, right? As we just see like, hey, Mibu's here doing all of the shrine duties. It's pretty cool to see, right? But we just look over and see that Yuna and Uryu are just pretty much still talking with each other. And Uryu's like, hey, look, I'm an ordained Shinto priest the same as you. And he's like, hey, so I should. But Yuna's like, hey, no, I get it, all right? I appreciate all of the feelings you're trying to give here. But please, leave this to me. I am the chief priest of Amagami Shrine, after all. And, oh man, it's just a really cool moment seeing that, yes, Yuna has actually made her dream come true already. And we just didn't see it because, yeah, she just worked hard. She became the chief priest. And, yeah, it's just a very nice moment here at the end of the day. And Uryu's pretty much like, all right, Yuna, you're right. And he's like, all right, with that settled, let's divide up the duties for next weekend's ceremony, pretty much, right? As we just now cut over to Yuna standing around and clapping to the gods with all of these other shrine maidens around her pretty much, right? And they're also just like talking back and forth as Yuna's just like, all right, substituting for Uryu, Kurokawa-san, you're going to be the escort and the parcel carrier. Chiyama-san and Shirai-san, you will share the ceremonial wine duties. And Mibu, you'll run the schedule and be the master of all of the ceremonies pretty much, right? Pretty much divvying up all of these goals right here in an instant pretty much, right? Just showing how she's become the shrine priest and how she knows to work around that role. It's a really cool thing, right? Well, either way, she's like, hey, I'm sorry to thrust this sudden burden on all of you guys, but I'm relying on each and every one of you to make this wedding happen. As we just see that Yuna goes over in front of all of them and just bows down in front of them here in the moment, right? And all of the girls sort of like bow back, being like, of course, like you can count on us pretty much, right? And Uryu sort of watching this from the sidelines, he just was like, man, she really did become a dependable leader somewhere along the way, didn't she? Yeah, just a cool little moment, right? As Yuna starts to walk off over towards Uryu once more, and two of the girls here at the moment are just like, man, Yuna-san is like so graceful and dignified, like she's just so adorable, right? And the other shrine maiden's like, oh my gosh, like you said it, Yuna's just so cool. I agree with these girls. Yuna is pretty cool in my opinion, right? But pretty much just like, hey, but I'm actually really worried about her partner. Like, they argue all the time. Is their relationship actually okay? And, yeah, I can honestly see where that comes in from the outside perspective. These two argue constantly, but maybe there's the silver lining that just they don't know about, right? I'm definitely not foreshadowing what happens next in the chapter, right? But at this point, we cut over to the nighttime at the Amagami Shrine, as we see that Uryu is inside cooking up some dinner pretty much, right? Of course, like, he's got a cloth holding back all of his hair here in a moment. And we see that Yuna walks in the room and into the kitchen just like, hey, Uryu. And Uryu's like, hey, what's up, Yuna? Like, dinner will still be a little bit later coming on, right? As you just see that Yuna is in more casual clothes now, just walks in and just sort of walks in and just holds out both of her arms, just like hands outstretched. And she's like, I'm tired pretty much, right? And Uryu's like, yeah, as he sort of walks over to her and Yuna sort of leans into him. And they sort of just come in and just give each other a big hug here in the moment, right? Snuggle up together, right? As Uryu's just like, man, this is really a side of you that you don't let all of those part-time Mikos see. And she's like, hey, it's not like I can help it. I want to keep my work life and my private life separate. And yeah, it's just a good thing to do, all things considered, right? She's like, hey, I'm the chief priest of a shrine, but I also just want to be your girlfriend sometimes, Uryu. Damn, that's pretty nice, you know what I'm saying? And she's like, hey, thank you for spoiling me like this. I love you, Uryu. And replying to this, Uryu's just like, hey, I love it when you're impressive and in control, and I love it when you're sweet and needy. I love both of these two sides of you. As pretty much as this happens, we see one of these sliding doors in the Amagami Shrine slides open, as somebody is just like, oh man, you two being embarrassing lovebirds again, right? And we see, wow, it's Omi-chan. For some reason, she's here. And we see that she just got out of the shower pretty much. Like, her hair is all down. Like, she doesn't have her hair donga, which is a really weird sight and something that Uryu and Yuna comment on here in a second. But she's like, hey, I went ahead and took the bath. And both Uryu and Yuna look over and like, who are you again, right? And she's like, hey, what kind of treatment is this pretty much, right? But of course, like, I didn't realize how long her hair actually was. Like, it goes down all the way to, like, the crook in her legs, if not it's, like, further down, pretty much. Like, Omi-chan has really, really long hair, right? Which does make sense, being like, hey, she pretty much has a hairball the size of her skull on top of her head at all times, so I'll give it to you, Naito Marcy. This is how this character's hair would look. I'm glad that we got it at least once before the end of the series, because if not, this was going to be a question I was going to, like, die over not knowing pretty much, right? But either way, she's like, hey, it's me, Omi-chan. Like, hey, weren't you two the ones who invited me over to stay tonight anyway? And we just get the whole idea of like, oh, sorry, you just look different from usual. Oh my gosh, wow, that's so crazy, right? But either way, it's just this little bit of an idea where Omi-chan's like, hey, but still, you two are finally getting married, huh? Like, I'm so emotional, right? And we just see that both Yuna and Uryu are what are you talking about, right? And she's like, oh, don't you know, like, you guys were talking about a ceremony earlier today, right? And they're like, no, actually, that was a wedding that we're performing for work here at the shrine. She's like, oh, my mistake. She's like, anyway, but, like, when is your two wedding gonna be, right? Like, it's gotta happen at some point. And both Uryu and Yuna sort of, like, look away from each other. Like, I just love how they both look in opposite directions. It's a really funny panel here at the bottom of the page. And Uryu's like, well, we sort of still haven't talked about that, right? As you just see both into Uryu and Yuna's mind, as Uryu's just thinking, like, damn it, like, come to think of it now, I am a licensed doctor, and, like, maybe it's time that we think about... And Yuna's just like, hey, come again, like, I did achieve my dream and become the chief priest of the shrine, so, like... maybe it's time that we think about. But both of them are just, like, sort of in their own little worlds. They look back towards each other, glance, and they just, like, avoid their eyes as they just think, like, hey, but it's sort of hard to know when to sort of bring it up, you know what I'm saying? As pretty much Omi-chan from the background just thinks, like, man, can you believe these two? Like, just get married already. Like, you guys are already there pretty much, right? Really just, really fun stuff, right? But anyway, we now cut over to a brand new day. I guess this is the weekend after whenever these events were happening, because it's currently time for the Okada Nakamura wedding. I don't think I said that right, but I'm going to pretend I did, right? As we just see that the main panel we see here in the moment is just Yuna in, it's not like the typical Shinto woman's robes, but more of like the male robes, I'm going to say. I don't know like how often or traditional it is for females to wear these. I know nothing about the Shinto religion in Japan besides for the series, so anything that I say is probably wrong. Just keep that in mind. But we just see that she sort of got, like, I know I've seen this in, like, plenty of other anime and manga before, that's why I sort of, like, and I normally see the priest wear that outfit, that's where that sort of guess comes from. But either way, right, we see that Yuna is wearing sort of like that black cap and more of the like traditional big overflowing robes over her entire body. And we just see that she sort of got like one of these folding fans stuck in the front of her hand pretty much, right? And behind her, Mibu is following along with like a lot of other people, of course, a woman in the typical Shinto wedding dress thing or the wedding kimono, and then the groom in like just a suit pretty much, right? And the whole idea is that, yeah, those two are getting married. We see the marriage take place, like the ring gets slipped on the finger and all of that various stuff. And here in the moment, we just get a little bit of the ceremony going on, as Yuna's just like, hey, I wish to thank all of you for being in attendance today. I shall now pray from my heart for the happiness of the two before me, right? And yeah, that's really all we see of the wedding, but it's enough to sort of get the context of it happened and Yuna officiated it. Yeah, sort of is what it is there, right? But either way, we now cut a little bit into the future, as we see that both Uryu and Yuna are just sitting on one of the benches here at the Amagami Shrine and just talking to each other, right? And Uryu's just like, hey, I'm really glad the wedding went off without a hitch. Like, hey, I'm just glad, like you said, there was no reason for me to try to push to help myself. So, like, hey, you did everything under control. You're like a great chief priest, Yuna, right? And here in the moment, we just see that both Yuna and Uryu are just sitting here, and they both have cats in their laps, and we just see a lot of cats strewn around the Amagami shrine, as we just see that, yes, Yuna is just sitting here, just petting on a cat, just loving it all here in the moment, right? It's like, ah, ha, ha, thanks for telling me that, Uryu. And pretty much Uryu's like, yeah, of course, now you have your brain shut off as well, pretty much, right? And yeah, they're just sort of doing it there in the moment, just talking, as Yuna's just, like, loving on all of these cats around her. But here in the moment, Yuna just says, like, hey, I was honestly thinking, weddings are really nice, aren't they? You get all these happy feelings, even at an unrelated person's wedding. If it was my own wedding, I know I'd be bursting with happiness by the end of it. And Uryu's like, yeah, I definitely bet you would. It's sort of like the cat in Uryu's arm starts to, like, move around here in the moment, as the two of them sort of just go silent for a second. As all of a sudden, Uryu's like, hey, say Yuna, but at the same time, Yuna's like, hey, say Uryu, why don't the two of us get married? As pretty much they both say the same thing here in the moment, as like Uryu's like, hey, why don't two of us get married? And Yuna's like, hey, what do you think about two of us getting married as well? It's sort of like the formality that the two of them speak here into terms, as there's just cats sitting in their arms, and they're just rolling around pretty much, and two of them are sort of just like looking at each other like, hey, let's do this pretty much already, right? And it's just a really nice 2-page spread where we just see this here in the moment. And both of them are silent as like, wait a second, like, what did you just ask me? Like, what did you just ask me? You guys just asked each other the same exact question. You guys know sort of the whole idea here, right? As pretty much as these two freak out and scream, both of the cats sort of jump out of their arms and run away here in the moment, which that's what a cat does. Gosh, I love the Amagami Shrine cats. It may be my favorite part of this chapter. But either way, we just see that Uryu's just like, hey, hold on a minute, like, what's the big idea of proposing to me like that, right? And Uryu's like, hey, what's the big idea? Like, why'd you just propose out of the blue right now? And you're just like, oh my gosh, like, what are you doing pretty much, right? And Uryu's like, hey, I mean, I just got so full of desire and to marry you in the moment that I just, like, couldn't help but say it pretty much. And she's like, hey, I guess it was sort of like the same for me as well. As Yuna's like, hey, but, like, I guess that means we should just get married, shouldn't we, right? And Uryu's like, gosh, I guess it seems like so. But he's like, no, actually, this isn't right. Is this really what we want our engagement story to be? Just, like, sitting on a bench petting some cats and all this various stuff, right? And Uryu's like, hey, let's take a step back. Let's think this entire thing over. And I can give you a proper proposal later down the line. We can make it all proper and fancy, pretty much. But here in the moment, Yuna doesn't really want to take any of this. And she just looks over to Uryu and just, like, grabs his face and leans in. And as Uryu's sort of freaking out over all of this, she just gives him a nice big kiss. As Yuna's just like, hey, there's no need to obsess over all of the small stuff. And Uryu's like, yeah, okay. And that's where we end this chapter of Tying a Knot with an Amagami Sister, chapter number 192. Again, this chapter is titled Tying Disguise Together, Evening. And man, this was just nice, all things considered. I love the whole progress to the chapter, like, just seeing the dynamic these two have, even whenever they are, like, a proper boyfriend-girlfriend situation, and they're living together at the shrine, doing all of the various stuff. They're both chief priests, with, of course, Yuna being, like, the chief, like, the big chief priest, pretty much. And just seeing how they all interact, I really just love seeing the moment where we see, like, oh man, Mibu is here, still working at the shrine, doing all the things. And of course, Yuna has hired on all these other extra hands because Uryu is busy. I mean, I know that she would love Uryu to be there helping her out, but she understands that Uryu has a very important career for himself, so just hire a few other part-time Miko as well. And of course, the whole idea of the wedding here in the moment, getting officiated, and of course, Yuna being like, man, like, I just really love the wedding, and I can't wait for whenever mine happens, and that spurring the two to cut together and be like, hey, well, let's actually do this already. Of course, there's a few other parts of this chapter. We can't forget just the regular Omi-chan inclusion. All of the friends had to show up once during the arc, pretty much, right? Takeda showed up in the final chapter of Yahei's arc. Karen showed up in the first chapter of Asi's arc. And I hope this isn't the last time we see Omi-chan. I really did like Omi-chan. Probably my favorite out of all of the best friends. Mainly just because of, like, all of the jokes around her, pretty much. Like, hey, the hair dongo, that's pretty funny, right? But other things considered, I'm not going to be upset if we don't see her again. It would just be a nice thing to be like, hey, she was part of the story for a good long while. Granted, all of the characters were, but you guys get the point, right? This also means it will probably get a small mention of Yuna's parents next chapter. Of course, with the whole idea of, like, hey, they're dead, so it's a little bit of, it's not like they can actually show up to the wedding, but of course they'll probably be there in spirit, and the whole idea of like, hey, sort of, I wish their parents could have been, or something like that, being that, I guess I never put two and two together, but truly, both Uryu and Yuna's parents are both just dead. I actually don't think we know who Uryu's father is, but I don't think it's really important to the story, and like, it's not like we're going to get that reveal here in like the final moments of like, gosh, we have to figure out who Uryu's dad is. We have 2 more chapters to figure this story plot point out. Oh my god, I don't know if we're going to be able to do it in time, pretty much, right? But this is just a really nice chapter, seeing all the really cute moments between both Yuna and Uryu pretty much at home, and like the 2 sides of Yuna, the business side and also the personal side. It's just a nice thing to see. And of course, the best part of the chapter is just the Amagami shrine cats, man. I love cats. Cats are like my favorite pet animal that can be out there. Like, I understand people that love dogs. I get it. I've got a few dogs of my own back home. Like, they're not my dogs, but like they're the household dogs pretty much. And yeah, they're cool. They're good animals, but there's just something about a cat that's just like so nice just to hold in your arms. And I'm now sort of getting sad being that I'm at college right now. I don't have my personal cat. She's just sitting at home somewhere, and it's like I wanna pet my cat pretty much, right? Like any cat at all. Like, you're just so nice of a creature, and man, I didn't expect this video to end off with me being sad about not being able to pet some cats right now, but even still. They're just drawn so cute too, just sort of looking around here in the moment. Like, I love whenever Uryu and Yuna propose to each other pretty much here in the moment. I just love how we just get the portrayal of one laying in sort of on Yuna's chest, one pretty much laying on the back of Uryu's arms, or like sprawled out here in the moment, and then just one on the bench that they're sitting on between the 2 of them, just sort of looking up at Yuna. It's such a good cat. Like, man, I just love them pretty much, right? I also love Uryu and Yuna's relationship too, but like, the cats are pretty awesome. I think the way that Marcy Naito draws cats is actually my favorite character in the series, and then it's Yuna, and then Uryu, right? But either way, just a really fun chapter, and I can't wait to read the next one and sort of record a video on it and get it up to sort of like finish out the Yahei, or not Yahei, golly. I'm going to cut most of the other ones. I'm going to leave that one in because it just shows where my brain has been this entire video. It's the Yuna chapter, but I cannot remember Yuna's name for the life of me. Like, what's wrong, right? But either way, it was just really nice to see all of this. And next time we'll be getting the Yuna and Uryu wedding. And I just can't wait to see how cute of a chapter it is and how much it just makes me very happy for the 2 of them. And yeah, with all that out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching this video and hanging out for Amagami Sister chapter number 192. If you did enjoy it, like I mentioned earlier in the video, I've covered this series a good amount of times ever since the Tying Disguise Together arc began in this series. So there will be a playlist of all of those videos linked in the description box of this video, along with the end card of this video as well. If you also just like this video, I cover plenty of other anime and manga related content here on my YouTube channel at Glowplasma. I actually just reached 300 subscribers this morning, which was a pretty cool thing. Like, thank you guys. I don't know how many of you guys on the Amagami series helped me reach that number, but if you did, thank you so very much. It's just a really awesome thing. But my YouTube channel's there, and go subscribe, do all of that various stuff there. I cover many other anime and manga series. Just go look at the YouTube channel. I feel like reading out their names right now. But yeah, thank you guys so very much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time for Tying a Knot for Amagami Sister, chapter number 193. Again, this was 192, titled Tying Disguise Together Evening. And yeah, I'll catch you guys for that one. This is Glowplasma 231, signing out. Yuna truly is best girl, after the cats. The cats may be the best girls, and then Yuna comes after, but yeah, either way, good chapter. Marcy Naito, you've done it again.